You're the lead, mister.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm gonna call the meeting to order for APCD. Roll call. Who's in here?
Yes. Board Member Bennett. Board Member Blatz.
Here.
Board Member Edmonds.
Here.
Board Member Huber. Board Member Long. Board Member Parks. Board Member Pollock.
Present.
Board Member Ramirez. Board Member Rollins. And Board Member Zaragoza.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is our Pledge of Allegiance at Edmonds.
Stand and say with me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Our next item is the minutes of the APCD for February 11th. Do we have a motion on that?
Motion to approve. Or second.
Got a motion by Blatz and second by Long.
Ramirez.
Ramirez. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's approved. Our next item is agenda review, consider and approve by majority vote any minor revisions to the board items and attachments and so forth. Any items that we need to remove or add? Or
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda.
okay.
Motion approved.
The second, Long and Edmonds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. That's approved. Public comments? I don't have any cards for public comments. Thank you. Board comments? Any board comments?
I have two, one of which I can remember.
Supervisor.
That is, I've asked our executive director to come back next month and with a presentation that I actually saw in Yosemite at the Local Government Commission, where they charted using our permit data where all the backup generators are in Ventura County, how many of them are within a half mile of a school, and how much overall metric tons of carbon emissions they would cause. And it was over 18,000 metric tons of carbon emissions. So just being able to kind of get a handle on it. These are those, backup diesel generators, and they're not the ones that go in people's backyards or their garages. These are the ones that are all at facilities. And this is prior to all those PSPSs we're getting. So you can expect that number to grow. And I think it would be a good conversation to have, one we can't have because it's not on the agenda, but that's something I'm bringing forward.
So, yeah, you're nodding your head. Yeah.
We'll be happy to give a presentation. We couldn't speak in much detail today because it's not on the agenda, so we didn't want to run afoul of
For
Brown
next
Act, but
agenda.
we'll be happy to do it next month.
Thank you.
I do have one. I wanted to bring up the fact that I enjoy the agenda, how it is.
Get your mic up.
Turn it on.
Yeah,
There.
there it is.
I can't move it. Okay,
is.
I will
You're
lean
good.
forward. I appreciate the fact that we have the public comment and then board comments following that, because if someone comes to public comment, I know in Fillmore we're thinking of adding the ability to reply to public comment right after public comment, so that if someone wants to reply to it, you can.
In the minimum.
Yeah, which I thought saves people then from having to wait so long to hear if what they had to say was heard. So
Yeah, and
I just wanted to congratulate you for having that there.
thank you. Thank you so much. Any other comments?
Yes, I'd just like to thank Dr. Tisopoulos for coming to our recent city council meeting. He gave an excellent presentation on the various different things that the Ventura County Air Pollution Board is doing to mitigate some of the air quality within our area. And so the presentation, I think, was fairly comprehensive, but very understandable to the community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Board Member Pollock?
I also wanted to bring up that Ms. Parks, Ms. Ramirez, and I are on the Energy and Environment Committee for SCAG, and we also serve on the Regional Council. And one of the concerns at the regional level has been certainly that air pollution has been going in the wrong direction in the past couple of years. A lot of that has to do with mobile sources of air pollution. And on Thursday, we made what I think is kind of a historic decision to change the way we do our RENA allocation. So rather than continuing to stretch the metropolitan area further and further out and building wider and longer freeways, instead we're going to concentrate housing requirements around job centers and transit centers, which will shift a lot of the RENA burden inland, back inland, predominantly to the South Bay area and Orange County. Now, it's not without controversy, obviously, but it's definitely a big change in past policy, and hopefully one that'll help reverse the trend of air pollution.
Thank you.
And that, oh, go ahead. I was just saying, I remembered what the other
Commissioner
item
Ramirez?
Okay, well, thank you real quickly. Thank you, Member Pollock, because that was really a critical decision we made, not without some controversy, but we made the right decision, I believe. Also, David Pollock, Linda Parks, and I are on the Energy and Environment Committee of the Southern California Association of Governments, and there was a presentation by a group called Building, it's a building organization, about how much pollution comes out of buildings because of burning of natural gas. It was pretty shocking,
Significant.
very significant, much more than power plants. And something for us to be thinking about too, because it is contaminating the air we breathe and has health consequences as well. So I might send that to our director to take a look at that information and for the public. Thank
So
you.
when we have thousands and millions of homes, you can imagine the pollution.
Yes, and big, huge rate increases coming from from gas companies that will have an impact, especially on our restaurants, which is the most intensive use.
Supervisor Parks?
Yes, the another one that came from the Energy Environmental Committee that I chair and David co-chaired, or vice chairs, co-chairs sometimes too. That was the month ago. We had a presentation from the South Coast Air Quality Management District, and they have a program where they cite idling trucks. Particularly like if they're at near schools, you can call and you can complain, and they will come and give you a citation. And that's so some industries are really big on just letting like their trucks idle in the morning before the gates open or something like that. And again, that's more pollution. So it's just an interesting program that I didn't know air quality districts can do, but apparently they can.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Supervisor Penn?
Committee make that recommendation, or has it been adopted by SCAG?
It's been adopted by the Regional Council of SCAG, which is the governing board of.
So that's it. That's going to.
Well, it puts us into a period of appeals that will last till October, and after October, it will be final, and then we'll all have a year to incorporate it in our housing elements.
Will you guys just give us an update of?
That's right.
That's
And,
huge.
and there could be litigation.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's some good information for him. Okay. Any other board comments? Okay. Our next APCD officer, your comments?
Yes, I have a few quick comments to make and a few photos to share with you. Our building renovation has commenced in mid-January, so we are a month and a half in, and we are going full steam ahead. Just to show you a few pictures, the demo phase, it's all cleared up. We started framing, and the roof also is getting replaced. So we are making very good progress, a month and a half in, and our contractor is slightly ahead of time. So if everything goes according to plan, we may be able to finish, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed, a month ahead of time, which is all good news. So periodically, we are going to be updating you with the progress that we are making.
What is the date you're looking for?
I'm sorry?
The date you're looking for?
Well, technically, we're looking through the end of the year.
Okay.
So there's a good likelihood we may finish by November.
Okay.
Still, probably the move will not take place till perhaps after New Year's. So we'll take, almost the rest of the year, basic for the completion. But at least so far, no red flags. Everything is moving in the right direction with very minor issues. The other comment that I want to make is we deployed in January our new database system, the PRISM, that is replacing our old antiquated system. And by and large, it was a successful transition. There are still a few hiccups that we are working through because that's not atypical with this kind of migration. And as we resolve those issues and we complete phase one successfully, it will pave the way for the second and third phase of modernization. So we are very excited about it. And as Mr. Rollins indicated, last Monday, not yesterday, the last week, Monday, we were at the City Council of Port Hueneme, updating them on our initiatives with regards to the local air quality issues and other issues that the community has concerns about. And lastly, the executive officer and staff, we visited AERA facility here. We received an invitation for them, and we familiarized ourselves with their operation. And that's the extent of comments that I have to share with you.
Good. Any questions from board members? Okay, well, thank you. So, we could have built a brand-new building after all the remodeling.
Separate conversation
it
another
looks good.
time.
This building is stronger, support.
Don't even go there.
Okay, let's not go there.
Yes, come on.
Okay, item number 9 is adoption of resolution approving the market-based adjustments to the salary ranges for employees covered by the Apcd, management, confidential clerical, and other unrepresented employees effective 1 or 2 steps on March 22nd, 2020, and November 1, 2020, respectively. Sean?
Thank you. Good morning, board members. I'm Sean Auten, the county's Human Resources Director, and this item is essentially to align market-based adjustments for non-represented
And Sean, by
employees.
the way, the standing committee did listen, we
You're absolutely, sorry, I
kind of
should have
recommended
mentioned
that,
that.
just for information. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, this, some recommendations were put to the standard committee, and this is the result. And the market-based adjustments basically align non-represented employees' compensation in the same way as is done with represented employees. The same methodology is used. A total compensation review is completed. We have dialogue regarding what are the representative benchmarks and classifications, and then it's put into the same formula as for represented. And in this case, we've come to you with, for 9 employees, non-represented employees, we've come to you with recommendations for market-based adjustments that range from, I believe it's 4-point-something% to 9, excuse me, I had it here, 1% to 9%. The CEO, like Dr. Tassopoulos, gets the 1%, and some of his lower-ranking staff, but vitally important staff, get the 9% based on our calculations of their market standing. This helps recruitment and retention, and has been done a number of cycles.
And I think retention was a big issue too, where I think it's important that we do that. And we followed some of the rules that the county has too just for information on the market-based adjustments. Any questions of Sean? Oh, go ahead.
I just have one question. On the Exhibit 2, which is, I think, the third page.
Yes.
It has a list of the employees and the percentage. And under the engineering, there's no one there. And I wondered, is that an open position that you're hiring for, or is that one that you won't fill?
I'll defer to Dr. Tassopoulos.
Thank you. That position is currently vacant, but Mr. Gassem is filling in. He's our planning manager, but he's also filling in as temporarily as our engineering manager.
But just temporarily, so you will be hiring someone? Okay.
Thank you, Lynn. Any additional questions of Sean? What's the pleasure of the board? First and a second, Long and Huber. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's approved. Our next item is adoption of resolution amending section 606, subdivision A of the Air Pollution Control District Management, Confidential Clerical, and other unrepresented employees. Resolution to provide incentive pay equivalent to 5% of the employee base per biweekly period, not to exceed 80 hours compensation per pay period for employees who are registered or licensed by the State of California Board of Professional Engineers and land surveyors effective March 22nd, 2020. Sean?
Thank you, Supervisor. This item essentially aligns the management resolution with that of the SEIU, the represented people, and the VEA, I believe. So basically, whenever there's a provision in one, in the represented group MOUs that we've negotiated with, we don't want to create disparities. We recommend the same item for the non-represented people. And so in this case, anyone who has the credential of engineering, regardless of what classification they're in, would get the premium payment. And it promotes, again, an educated workforce who can speak to the business of the agency, and it enhances recruitment and retention. With that, I'm prepared to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Sean. Any questions for Sean? Edmonds?
The question I have is, it said 5% is on the biweekly pay incentive period. So is that 5% 1 week and you don't get it the next? Is it 5% once you've shown the yearly one that is for the rest of that year?
Essentially, if you have the credential, it's 5%.
Oh, it's just the credential. Oh,
Yes.
because it said based on their interview. Base pay and interview. So I didn't know if there was an interview that they had to go through. So I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
We will look into it, but my understanding is that it's
Yeah,
on
that's
top
fine.
of their base
Yeah.
pay.
I
Yeah.
thought it'd be a
Forgive the-
bit difficult if it were taken away and then added.
Yes, no,
I don't think you wanted that.
Okay, any other questions? We need a motion.
I move.
Edmonds and Huber, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let's approve. Our next item is approval and authorization for the Air Pollution Control Officer to execute the third amendment to the grant agreement for the combined continuous implementation of the Voluntary Accelerated Vehicle Retirement Program, environmental studies, and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to let you go ahead and go from there.
Thank you, Supervisor. The Voluntary Accelerated Vehicle Retirement Program is a very popular program. We receive pass-through monies that we help individuals who have older vehicles to part with their vehicles, and we crash them, we dismantle them, and we offer them in exchange for $1,000 roughly. It's an extremely successful program, very popular. We always get oversubscribed, and we have been implemented for a period of 3 years. Very cost-effective emission reductions, less than $14,000 per ton, both criteria pollutants as well as greenhouse emission reduction benefits. The entity that implements the program on our behalf is the Environmental Engineering Studies, Inc. We entered into a contract with them in 2017. We went through 2 amendments in 2018 and 2019, and we are proposing to exercise this third-year amendment by setting aside $100,000 and $450. So far, we crashed close to 240 vehicles, and with this amendment, we are going to take in another 100 vehicles. And we recommend, they've been performing very well, so we are very happy with their performance, and we recommend the board that they authorize me to enter into that contract.
Thank you. Any questions?
Could you repeat the cost per pound?
So $14,000 per ton, and if we'll do the
cost per ton is
2,000,
fine.
so it's roughly $7 per pound.
Per pound, great, thank you.
Okay. Any
I mean,
questions?
regular reductions, you'll probably have to pay almost double, in stationary sources. So it's a good deal.
Thank you. Any additional questions? No? It's a pleasure of the board.
Second.
Second, from Carmen and Edmonds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So that's approved. Our last item is the adoption of a resolution supporting increased funding for the California Air Resource Board funding ag replacement measure for emission reduction program.
Okay. So the farmer program is also a grant program, relatively new. It was instituted back in 2-3 years ago. Extremely popular. So we get state pass-through monies, and we help our local farmers to replace and modernize their fleet, their tractors and other equipment. Again, and we invest this money in disadvantaged communities, extremely popular. Again, typically we get oversubscribed. Great cost effectiveness in terms of criteria and greenhouse gas reductions, as well as particulate diesel reductions. 2 years ago, when the program was first instituted, we received close to $1.2 million and change. That was slightly reduced the subsequent year to $1,100,000. And somehow, miraculously, this year, our funding was halved. And it's not just us. The entire state, all the districts up and down the states that are implementing this program. And we are basically trying to bring this to the governors, our legislators, the Area Resources Board awareness, how popular and how productive this program is. And we are seeking some additional funding. So we have a resolution prepared that we would like the board to
I think you and I talked to reduce the funding. Now we want to increase. Is that what
increase
it-
the funding.
But initially, they wanted to reduce it, or?
No, they already
We're just going to
reduced
increase it.
So we want to increase it. We want to go back to where we were. In fact, we want to go beyond that, if possible.
From the base to and above.
The economy is doing well. This is money extremely well spent, extremely
Time
well
to do it.
invested, and it makes a lot of sense.
Good, good. So we're going to replace tractors and so forth.
Yes, yes.
Okay, any additional questions?
Just a thought.
Go ahead.
There might be a time that we need to also add generators that will be replaced, because I know a lot of people have purchased ones from out of state that don't have the same requirements that we have.
Correct.
So if we could get more money, we could add that to the, perhaps.
Yes, there are attempts, and I don't want to digress here, from the state to keep the individual utilities that are causing the PSPS events responsible. And part of the settlement agreement with the one up north, PG&E, who declared bankruptcy as a precondition to come out of bankruptcy to perhaps establish a mitigation fund. We'll see where that goes, but there are people thinking along the same lines that you are thinking,
Good, thank you.
which is a very good idea, by the way.
Okay, any additional information? What's the pleasure of the board? Zen? Who's first?
Rollins.
Edmund?
Rollins first.
Rollins and Bennett. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Mm-hmm.
Any opposed? Okay, that's approved, and no standing committee?
No standing committee.
So we'll see you in April?
You'll see me in April. We are going to be discussing the draft budget, so for sure we are going to have a
Board
standing-
members, we come back at 3. Right.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.